Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is Pink Rhythmic, and today I am back with another Nana analysis video. So before we start, I literally want to say that I am so sorry for not uploading. I literally have been just so caught up with everything. Like, I've went through 2 jobs. I'm just trying to focus on graduating, and it's just been a lot going on, but I am far more active on TikTok and Instagram, which I'll link down below. And yeah, we're going to start this video, and I am not going to be doing it alone. I brought my little stuffy with me to accompany us while we talk. And before we also start, if I look down, I am looking at my notes because it's a lot that we're going to be talking about today, and I just want to make sure that I don't miss anything. So grab popcorn, grab someone to snuggle up with, and let's get started. Nana is a very well-known anime and manga that was published in the year 2000 by Aya Yazawa, which later did get animated into a TV series in 2006 to 2007. At the surface, Nana seems like your typical shoujo anime. Stylish characters, various dynamics, and possible hints of romance. And that's what attracted a lot of people into reading and watching it. However, the way in which Nana was remarkably written really makes it stand out from your average shoujo anime. It tackles themes of harmful relationship dynamics, loss, codependency, addiction more in such a nuanced way. And the characters and the dynamics can be such amazing talking pieces because in the anime Nana, no one is fully righteous or fully flawed, besides Takumi. But still, the anime mainly initially revolves around 2 female main characters, Nana Komatsu and Nana Osaki, who once they begin to live together as roommates navigate the rocky and unpredictable world of young adulthood. And today we'll be analyzing one of these main 2 characters, that being Nana Komatsu. But to make it easier when talking about these 2 characters, we're going to be calling her Hachi, which is a nickname that she is later given in the anime, just to make it easy. And then we're going to call the other Nana, Nana O, or Nana Osaki. So, let's get it! Nana is introduced to us as a very bubbly, extroverted, and girly character. She enjoys dressing up, cooking, and spending time with her best friend Junko. And somewhat the beginning of the anime, Hachi is still in high school alongside her best friend Junko. During the time, she meets a man at the movie theater. She bumps into him, and he helps her get back to her feet. This man is named Takashi Asano, and becomes kind of the first character that sets course for the rest of the anime. So, after meeting him, she begins to engage in a very distasteful relationship with Takashi. Basically an affair. So, Takashi's a businessman, and he begins to basically engage in a weird affair with Nana while she's still in high school. A lot of times they would meet, drive around the town at night, and then their dates would usually end with him bringing her to a cheap motel where he would take her innocence. I have to watch what I say on here. He always left Hachi wanting him. He would reach out just enough so she wouldn't get over him. All until he found a better job in Tokyo, where in their last meetup, he tells Nana in his car that, Hachi, in his car that they will no longer be seeing each other. This leaves Hachi utterly devastated at the loss of the man that she felt so in love with. This toxic relationship experience basically leads the course for impacting her future relationships for the rest of the anime. It's important to acknowledge her age, her maturity level, and the fact that their relationship had a really toxic age gap and power dynamic. He always decided where they would meet, when they would meet, and how they would meet, and what they would end up doing, and she just went along with everything because she was naive and young and inexperienced. This is literally like, this first relationship that she went through is literally your textbook grooming, if we want to be honest here. Okay, so I also want to preface that grooming, whether it's during childhood or teenagehood can literally affect an individual severely and can affect them to the point that they are unable to later on in their life develop healthy, non-toxic relationships. It can impact someone's self-worth, how they view themselves, how they treat others, and it can even redefine how someone views love and what behaviors are tolerable in a relationship. So this is where her codependency issues, people pleasing, and desperate desire of male validation became prevalent. So not too long after, she graduates high school with Junko, and now it's time to look for universities. There's an episode where she meets Kyosuke and Shoji, which are Junko's friends. So all three of them are very artsy, and Nana just kind of follows along with them, although she never really had much of an individual interest of art herself. And some people could say that this kind of ties into her people pleasing. Some people might say she's just a follower because she's young. You can decide that for your own. I'm just going to be listing different things and the sequence in which they happened. Okay, so anyways, after meeting Shoji through mutual friends, this is where her kind of new love interest begins. So, she thinks that Shoji's a pretty cool guy. He's her age, has a mutual connection with her best friend Junko, and he's pretty driven. He's trying to be independent, and he seems to have a plan and is generally pretty sure of himself, and that's the charm that initially really attracted her. However, because of her previous relationship with Takashi, she's pretty hesitant and just jumping straight forward with Shoji, and she kind of instead decides to be friends. And at the beginning, and this is also encouraged to her by Junko's word of advice, by her best friend basically telling her that men are not just potential love interests, and that she should learn to focus in developing connections with people and seeing men as people and also possible friends. So she takes what Junko tells her to heart, and she begins to just slowly develop a friendship with Shoji. So as time kind of fast forwards, summer's about to end, so they kind of do like this hangout thing, and then they go to the beach together, and they even eventually, all four of them go to a hotel. So because Hachi didn't want to inconvenience Junko, she lets her and Kyosuke, sleep together in a room, and she agrees with just sharing a room with Shoji. In this episode, we see that Hachi's previous idea or image of Shoji gets slightly shattered or tainted. In this episode, Shoji talks about how she shouldn't just see him as just a friend, and that he's, at the end of the day, still a man, and he will have manly urges.
Sing you a lullaby just like your grandma does.
I don't need you to sing. You might be fine with this, but I'm not. What if I jump on you?
But why would you?
Yeah, what do you mean, why?
We're just friends, right?
Hey, Nana, you really haven't got a clue about men and how they operate, have you? A guy can sleep with a girl without having any feelings for her.
This kind of becomes a very eye-opening moment for Hachi, because she realizes that men are men and that they have a strong desire for sex, and I feel like this is very important to talk about and bring up. So in that same very episode later on, she asks Shoji if he could tell her that he loved her before delving into having physical intercourse. Shoji couldn't be straightforward like she wanted him to, but he did give her a hug, and so she agrees to sleep with him. And this is where the romantic relationship began. As more episodes progress, we see a sequence of the way Shoji and Hachi's relationship runs its course. After summer vacation, they kind of have to basically become a long-distance relationship. Shoji takes off to Tokyo, where he's going to study art while working a part-time job and living alone, and he tells Hachi that she should figure out what she wants to do with herself and not just follow him suit. So she stays at home, and she begins to save up money until she's able to move to Tokyo by herself, so she'll be closer to her boyfriend, but without inconveniencing him. Eventually, she moves to Tokyo, and for a short while, she crashes at his place until she's able to find an apartment to live by herself. So in the time where they were living together, She does do a lot of effort into basically compensating for her stay. She cleans a lot, washes dishes, cooks, and even washes his bathtub. And I just want to kind of mention how it kind of slightly might tie into how she doesn't want to be seen as an inconvenience to others, which is a reoccurring theme in a lot of her relationships and regarding to her throughout the whole anime. She finally gets her own place in which she agrees to share with the girl that she met on the train, Nana Osaki, who becomes one of her closest friends throughout the anime. We see later on that she does get cheated on by Shoji. The girl that he cheats with is a girl from his part-time restaurant job named Sachiko. I do also want to preface, like I said in my last video, Sachiko literally looks almost like a carbon copy of how Hachi used to look in high school / early university. The short hair, slender frame, unique style, artsy. He has a type. But I do also want to preface the fact that, in a way, although they look similar, Sachiko, and they even have a similar name, Sachiko, Hachiko. Sachiko provided Shoji everything, almost everything that Hachi didn't have, therefore being somewhat of a temptation to him. Sachiko was far more quieter, far more collected, and far more consistent emotionally, while there were times in the anime when Hachi and Shoji were living together where she might like say something out loud and he might kind of get quiet because of her outburst.
Man, I'm exhausted from all that running around. You really are a lot of trouble.
Look who's talking. You're the one who went and ditched me.
Hi, so editing me here, and as I'm editing, I just realized that this kind of reminded me of something I wanted to also say. I do feel like Shoji does prefer a girl who's more quiet and doesn't talk back or say anything, and I heard that this was kind of the norm for a lot of what Japanese men back in the day kind of were into, or just men in general. A lot of men, especially back then, wanted women that were submissive, and I feel like Sachiko fitted that as opposed to Hachi, also furthering him to cheat. Hachi is very much codependent, bubbly, extroverted, and might even, speak out of turn when provoked or when very excited. And at first, although Shoji did find her personality cute when they first started dating, I feel like there's times throughout the anime where he kind of grew tired of it. You can tell when they were in his apartment and he was like, "Oh, all you did was clean and cook all day," and she said something to him, and then he gets kind of quiet. I think that it kind of shows that throughout time he kind of grew a little bit not as into her as before. Therefore, we're kind of like pushing him further into cheating with Sachiko because she tempted him because she was just better than Hachi or something like that. And that's how their relationship ended. So after a while, you can see that she's slowly starting to move on. She's living with Nana Osaki, and she grows to befriending her bandmates, Nana Osaki's bandmates from the band Blast. So that consists of Shin, Nobu, and Yasu. Throughout the anime, she does consider a lot of possible love interest. She does for a brief period of time think of Yasu, and does find him a little bit attractive but doesn't delve into it. And there's even times before that, before she met Nana Osaki in Blast, where she does talk about how she had crushes on a teacher, she had a crush on a delivery man, and even later on when she's working in that retail shop part-time job, she does find her boss kind of attractive and thought that he liked her. A lot of times when she has any remotely positive experience with any male in the anime, her brain automatically just considers romance, and I feel like it does kind of speak volumes because it kind of shows that in a way she's always seeking love or validation from people, and to the point that her subconscious mind just automatically thinks of anything that's just remotely a guy being nice to her or just being a decent person as romantic, because it's what she desires, is what she mainly is seeking, and it's what she mainly wants. Now we're on the third love interest, and that is Takumi from Trap Nest. They first meet through mutual connections since Nana Osaki previously dated their bassist Ren from Trap Nest, so it wasn't that far off for Hachi to meet Takumi, who was her favorite member of the band. We are aware that she had a very much idolizing fan and star relationship. You know, she very much admired Takumi. He was her favorite, and she found him very cool and interesting. I also want to preface that when fans have celebrity crushes or they admire, look up to people, they often will look up to the image that the celebrity or singer's agency will show out to the public. So that kind of already established her attraction. And when they first met one-on-one, which was like he was in the street and he calls her and he's like, I see you, and she gets in the car, and this is when they first met alone. He goes and takes her to a fancy hotel, and this is where they will for the first time engage in physical relations one another. And I just also want to preface that while this episode is taking place where they first sleep together, throughout her mind she keeps thinking about how he probably thinks she's just as easy as all these other girls and blah 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 blah.
Hey, isn't that the guy from Trap Nest?
Yeah, cool. He's so tall.
Then why did I even get in the car with him? He'd never seriously consider going out with someone like me. I'm not stupid. I knew what going off to have dinner with him might lead to. Maybe a part of me was hoping for this.
She kind of, instead of judging him for, like, oh, why is this guy that I just met trying to sleep with me, she keeps thinking about how he probably thinks bad about her and how she's wrong for this, or how she might have wanted this, or like, oh, maybe I wanted this because I got in his car. Maybe I am easy. And it kind of really brings into question how Hachi, a lot of the time when whoever she's dealing with does something weird or out of line, she somehow ties the blame to herself every time because she has somewhat of a pretty low self-esteem that she fails to recognize. And when they sleep together, this is just the beginning of how she starts to get more and more involved with Takumi. And I also want to preface that throughout their on and off fling that she kept hidden from Nana because she didn't want Nana to view her differently. She didn't want Nana to just think of her differently than just the sweet, caring girl that Nana always viewed her as, which also ties into the fact that she cares a lot about what other people think. But we'll talk about that later on. I feel like with Takumi, she kind of enabled him a lot because she was so sure that everything that he did a lot of the time was her fault or was tied into her to some way. She kind of often likes to fully put herself at fault, but at the end of the day, it takes two people to tango. He is at fault for some way, but a lot of times when things happen to her, she doesn't blame other people, and she just thinks everything's her fault. Okay, now, she first meets Takumi. It does, after a while, something happens, and then she shuts the phone on him, and this is where she starts her relationship with Nobu. And Nobu is a very much sharp contrast from Takumi. He is shown as the better option, you know. He cares about her, cares about her feelings, and prioritizes her. He treats her very gently and cares about her, while Takumi didn't, and a lot of the time often disregarded her feelings. However, Nobu does kind of exude a lot of girl savior traits, but I feel like I will rather talk about this in a different video, in his own video, because I feel like a lot of this could be his own video for his own analysis that I do plan on doing at some point, so we won't talk about this today. Okay, now we just went through 4 of Hachi's main love interests throughout the anime, and we're going to talk about how all of this concludes to who she is as a person and as a character, and why it explains a lot of the choices that she makes and a lot of the things that she goes through. And I also feel like by concluding and going through the sequence of her love interest throughout the anime, we're able to delve deeper into how a lot of people misconstrue her character and misunderstand a lot of things, in my opinion. And obviously this is all my personal opinion. I am more than willing to hear other people's thoughts down below, but let me cook. Okay, so one of the many consistent themes with her is the fact that she's very much a people pleaser. You know, she likes to prioritize other people's well-being and feelings over her own, and that's very much prevalent. And you can see this recurring theme in all of her relationships, especially the one with Takashi, Shoji, and Takumi. We see this with how, you know, she notices the ring on Takashi's finger indicating that he's a married man, but she never brings this forward. She never mentions this to him, and she kind of goes along with it because she doesn't want to turn him off with pursuing her or wants to scare him off or annoy him. Although she doesn't feel good in herself knowing that he's a married man and doesn't feel okay with this, she puts her pride aside and puts her feelings and her sentiments aside just to do whatever makes him feel the most comfortable in that toxic dynamic. And we also see this with how she allows her body to be used by Takumi whenever she pleases, knowing that it's the most that will ever come out of their relationship. And although that kind of saddens her and makes her feel like she's a bad person and a dirty person for even exuding any sense of sexuality as well, she kind of doesn't voice anything and just kind of keeps and kind of just goes along with whatever whenever he feels like doing something and whatever he wants, because she knows that's how Takumi is and that's how Takumi will always be. Not only that, I also do want to preface how Takumi, when they first met, did use a bit of manipulation tactics. He talked to her about how she's just she's like the best fan that he's ever had. She's so understanding and things like that, almost to like butter her up, you know, into being like, you know, I can't have a committed relationship with you. I can't have a serious relationship with you because I'm always on tour and things like that. So in a way, it makes her kind of also be aware that this is a life that he'll lead. So my feelings, at first she was cool with it, but the more she got involved, she started to get more affected by it. But she kind of put her feelings aside because she knew this is a life that he leads. He's a rock star, and I knew what I was doing when I got involved with him. So I'm just gonna keep hurting myself and let him do whatever he wants with me. And she always likes to put herself at the bottom of the list, priority-wise. And we see this when she dates Nobu, because although, yeah, she was wrong for not telling him that she didn't properly break up with Takumi, she also didn't want to tell him about that and didn't want to ever show the true parts of herself because she felt like Nobu wouldn't like her anymore, or it was going to ruin the idolized image that Nobu had of her. So, in a way, it kind of ties into the fact that instead of just being herself, her true self, in the way that makes her feel most comfortable, she rather almost put up like a half mask with Nobu to not hurt his feelings or tarnish however he feels about her, which goes again into putting herself in the worst situation or position at the expense of others. So, we also see time and time again that Hachi has really bad self-esteem issues. You can tell she views herself very low and very lowly, and which is why she allows herself to get treated very badly and allows herself to get involved in very turbulent relationships. This is also something that is very prevalent in kids that deal with pretty harmful things in teenagehood or childhood, it is not that surprising to me that she's engaging with the worst kind of men because she had her innocence and her naivety taken advantage of when she was underage. She's willing to put herself in a very emotionally turbulent relationship because she feels like that's what she deserves and feels like she cannot ever get any better.
Hi, so editing me here again, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this somewhere in this video. And a lot of people forget that younger children or teenagers that experience grooming or just toxic relationship dynamics a lot of times result to having a little bit of not your typical sexual experiences or result into being somewhat promiscuous when they get older as adults. And I feel like Hachi really delved into not so common themes that a lot of females in media don't often show, especially in anime. We see that she is content to some degree or willing to have a purely physical, intimate relationship with Takumi. However, they were not really romantic or exclusive whatsoever. And it also really shows that in a way Hachi herself has certain sexual, physical desires. And I don't want to just only tie that to her traumatic experiences, but also to the fact that she is a woman. And this also does play a factor in how she feels like she had bad sides to her that she did not want no one to know about or Nobu, and that's why she kept going back to Takumi, because only Takumi, quote unquote, accepted her for being her the way she was.
And also, she also has this very internalized idea that she could never get the guy that truly loved her, could take care of her financially, and give her the big family that she always wanted, which is why she settled with Takumi, because she felt like with the way she is, that's the best she was ever gonna get. Now, this is something that I also want to mention. As an audience, we do see very little snippets of Hachi's family dynamic. And I do want to mention this because I feel like it might kind of also tie into why she is the way she is. Obviously, it's speculation. Nothing is confirmed or directly said in the anime. It's all up for interpretation, and this is how I'm going to interpret it. So, we see little snippets throughout the anime of how Hachi interacts with her family and how they interact amongst each other. But there's obviously, Hachi's family seems like one of the best families in the whole anime compared to other characters. You know, we see that the mom is pretty involved with her children and she cares about her children, and then we see the dad also cares about everyone, and we see the kids, like her older sister and her younger sister, they're full of life, and you know, you can tell they all love each other. However, I do want to bring up how I feel like maybe because Hachi's the only child, she might have to some degree been emotionally neglected to some capacity as a child. And you're probably wondering, what are you talking about? But I'm gonna get to it, okay? So, I don't know if you guys remember that one scene where she's in Tokyo and she's calling her mom and she's, you know, having a rough time, and, you know, her mom basically tells her, I'm busy with your sister, here's this money, just don't come home. This kind of puts Hachi in a situation where she feels like she cannot, I guess, go to her mother. She doesn't have that kind of corner to go to anymore, and that her mother is very much, you know, focused on her sister. I feel like because Hachi's a middle child, that adds another layer of depth to her character. A lot of times, middle children are kind of, in a way, emotionally neglected. They're not the oldest, but they're not the youngest, so they're kind of just there. A lot of times, middle children, they're overshadowed by their eldest sibling, but they're also overlooked because of the youngest, because the youngest needs more tending to. So in a way, she's kind of just left there, and that would explain a lot as to why she kept pursuing Takashi when she was in high school, because she probably wanted attention and validation that she wasn't fully getting at home. Okay, so now we're near the end, and I want to also talk about how a lot of people on TikTok do call Hachi, you know, pick me, boy crazy, stupid, a weak-minded woman, things like that. But I feel like a lot of people blame her for all the misfortune that happened to her and all the things that happened to her, but a lot of times people do not blame the characters that inflicted such harm on her, and also don't acknowledge that there's lots of layers and lots of nuance to a lot of things. People do not consider her mental state nearly half of the time, and I feel like people do not understand and oftentimes underestimate how much just that one experience alone of her with Takashi when she was younger can affect someone mentally and affect them in the way that they navigate relationships as adults later on in life.
Hi, editing me once again. I swear this will be the last time, but I also want to point out that although Hachi gets a lot of, hate for her decisions, a lot of people do forget the fact that in her relationship with Takumi, she's literally dealing with basically almost like domestic violence. Takumi does get aggressive with her, takes advantage of her physically, even when she's pregnant, and I feel like a lot of people do not understand women's ability of reasoning in such a relationship like that unless they've themselves experienced it or witnessed someone close to them experience it. And I feel like, how do you expect someone in such an abusive relationship to be able to make the best, most logical decisions when the person that they are in close proximity with manipulating them in every single possible way? And not only that, Takumi to some degree kind of isolated her from her friends. So is it really surprising that she is basically a husk of a person by the end of the anime?
To such an extent. And I feel like Hachi did not fully have guidance, and you can tell with the way that when she did try to, talk to her mom in the anime, her mom just kind of brushed her off and was like, here, have some money, just don't come back. And so in a way, she was kind of left to navigate things with a lack of experience on her own. We see her first relationship was with a grown man, and we see that she never had that much experience or independence from home before, so she's doing a bunch of things by herself. Not only that, she got taken advantage of. That's her first romantic experience. Do you think that she's going to have the capability of making healthy choices and knowing what behaviors are not allowed and what things to do and not do in a relationship? No. She's literally learning as she's experiencing everything for the first time.
But this is my last voiceover, and I remember when at some point Hachi's calling her mom, and then her younger sister talks about Hachi sleeping with some boyfriend of some sort, and then Hachi's like, oh wow, can't believe that she's so comfortable to say such things in front of mom, can't believe kids nowadays. It's obviously a funny scene, yes, but I feel like it's also very important to realize the fact that this kind of hints on how, in a lot of, I feel like, Japanese culture, and obviously I'm not Japanese, so correct me in the comments, but I feel like a lot of times especially back then, a lot of parents, especially moms, did not have certain kind of quote-unquote weird conversations with their daughters. I doubt that a lot of women back then in the early 2000s had their moms sitting down and talking to them about intercourse or talking to them about such taboo topics that are taboo in their society, or even giving them advice with men. So in a way, she had no knowledge on how to navigate this kind of romantic scene, and she was doing this all by herself, single-handedly, with occasional very light advice from her best friend Junko.
I feel like a lot of people lack empathy and lack the emotional intelligence to see things and understand why some people might do something just without them having to go through that specific experience themselves. And I feel like a lot of people are not able to put two and two together. And I feel like I do not want to blame everyone, because so much happens in the anime, it's hard to connect a bunch of little things together. But that's the point of Nana. It's showing how people are the makeup of their environment and their experiences, and all these different little strings make up this big yarn ball. So, yeah. So, back to what I was saying. Hachi did not have guidance at all, although she did sought it. She did sought after it. I feel like also people forget the fact that it's not like she didn't try to get advice. Like, she did call her mom and things like that. And people kind of also weren't the best with giving advice as well. Like, when Shoji cheated on her, what did Junko do? Go to her house and berate her and blame her for being the cause of her getting cheated on. Like, and then not only that, like, did we forget that she was scared to tell Nana that she was pregnant because she was scared of burdening Nana and also ruining how Nana saw her. Like, it's a lot. She was going through a lot. So this ties back into how I was saying she had to figure out a lot of things on her own, because it's not like she had that great of a support system all the time. And a lot of people always want to say, why did she tell Nana anything? Be so for real. Yes, they were close, but at the end of the day, she did not know this girl for that long. One, she knew Nana had a lot going on. She was trying to make a career for herself. She had a band. She had to make songs. She was dealing with stuff with the agency, doing stuff with Ren. Hachi didn't want to put more burden on her and stress her out and possibly make her give up her career or impact her career. Because once again, Hachi puts other people's needs above her own. So of course she wouldn't put that burden on Nana, because she's not the type of person to do so. She takes everyone's problems and tries to fix stuff for everyone because she's a people pleaser. Oh my god, I hope I don't sound mean. I love that. I love Hachi. I feel like she's such a cool character to talk about. And then Hachi has a lot of self-doubt, self-sabotage, and lack of confidence. In general, every time she opened up to a man, she got physically or mentally abused or taken advantage of in some way, shape, or form. And now, furthermore, I also want to add how a lot of people blame her for choosing Takumi and things like that, but don't acknowledge the fact that she knew she couldn't just choose Nobu because of the baby. I feel like, if she wasn't pregnant by Takumi, she would have chosen Nobu in a heartbeat, but she knew she couldn't, because, like I said, Hachi doesn't like to put unnecessary burdens on others, and even when they could help her, she doesn't take that help. She knew she couldn't ruin Nobu's life with a baby that wasn't his. Would it be more correct to make this young man quit his passion, go into his family's business that he constantly talked about not wanting to ever engage in, to raise a kid that wasn't his? No. It's not morally correct. And she was aware of that. That's why she couldn't possibly just ask Nobu to give up playing the guitar, which was his life passion, just to raise Takumi's baby. Another thing I want to talk about is how a lot of people on TikTok specifically like to call her boy crazy, or they want to call her pick me. And I understand why at first you might feel this way. I know, like, when a lot of people watch the anime, they get very irritated at her actions, and that they see that she is one of the main causes as to why her life ends up in the way that it ends up. However, I feel like a lot of people, especially younger viewers that watch Nana, they don't seem to understand how to feel empathy or to understand things that they didn't go through, and to understand why some people might end up choosing obviously wrong decisions without going through something like that. But a lot of people do not understand that there's so many women like her in the world that, because of certain childhood traumas that they went through, certain like failed relationships, and certain just unresolved inner conflicts, know that they're choosing wrong, know that they're chasing after very low pleasures and gratifications, but they cannot help themselves because they feel like they need those things to feel happy. There's so many women that, because of certain things that they went through when they were teenagers, it results into them kind of living in this continuous cycle of toxicity and feeling that they have to date harmful people and engage in harmful behaviors as a form of almost self-punishment. And I feel like that ties into some degree how Nana just engages with men and how it has shaped her into who she is. And I feel like Nana's just, like, I'm sorry that I said I was gonna call her Hachi and I just switched it, but I hope you know this video's about Hachi, Nana Komatsu. But I feel like Hachi is just such a dynamic character. She has so many layers to her. She's like an onion. I feel like there's so much more to her that people forget and don't realize, and there's so much that explains and impacts why she does what she does. And I feel like when you watch Nana with a different eye and a different lens, I feel like you realize how these characters are so human, because there's a lot of people out in the world that choose wrong just to choose it, know that what they're doing is wrong, but they just choose it just to do it. And I feel like that's what makes a lot of us human. That's what makes a lot of us imperfect and morally gray. In someone else's story, we are the villain, and in someone else's story, we may be the hero. And I feel like that's what makes this anime so spectacular and beautiful to me. And I feel like Hachi, in a way, was chasing romantic love and thinking that if she obtained that, that was gonna make her happy, but she failed to realize that her most joyous moments were not with men, but they were with her friends. They were when she listened to music, when she cooked, when she would go with Nana to buy beautiful outfits. They were the little things in her life. And I feel like Nana is a very cautionary tale to a lot of young women and even just young adults. Do not spend most of your life and most of your young life chasing one thing that can come and go. Romantic love is not the only love. There's family love, friendship love, just love to live every day. And I feel like had Nana or Hachi realized this, maybe her life would have been better, would have been happier, would have been less alone. And yeah, but I feel like to experience other forms of love, you have to have self-love. And I feel like to some degree she might have lacked that within herself because of how she viewed herself so negatively and how she always looked down on herself. So take this anime and take the paths in which all these characters go through as cautionary tales. And yeah, so thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that, you know, this video was somewhat better than my last one, and I do plan on posting more. I have a lot of more ideas down below, so if you guys want to talk about this character further in the comments, I will gladly reply. And yeah, if you're interested, you can check out my other social media handles. I'm pretty much Pink Rhythmic on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, so check me out. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want to hear anything else. And I do plan on revamping this channel once again, and I will be posting more and being more active. I missed recording and editing, and I'm so excited to be back. I will have more time to make content for you guys. So yeah, bye, have a great day, be safe.